In this video, we're going to be covering trigonometric equations. So what is that? Well, that's just an equation with one of your trig functions or trig expressions in there. So we're just going to do a bunch of examples for this section. And our first example is to find all solutions to the equation sine of x equal to 1/2. Well, we need to understand what values of x will make sine of x equal to 1/2. To do that, how about we draw out our unit circle, and we should recall that sine of x is 1/2 if x is pi over 6. And also it is 1/2 over here, which is 5 pi over 6. Moreover, if we are at pi over 6 and we add 2 pi, we end up back at the same point. So sine of that value would also be 1/2. And if we subtract 2 pi, we get the same thing. We get back to here, and so sine of that value would also be 1/2. So how we write this out is our solutions for x are, that was bad writing, are pi over 6 plus 2 pi n, where n is an integer. All right, so if n is 0, then 2 pi times 0 is just pi over 6, so it gives us our original value. If n is 1, then we add 2 pi, so we go around the circle once. You could do n is 5, you go around the circle 5 times, we end up back here, and so sine of that angle would also be 1/2. And of course we have the same thing for 5 pi over 6. So we also have the solution x is equal to 5 pi over 6 plus 2 pi n. And a reminder, n is any integer, so these could also be negative. These values could also be negative. And that is our solution. All right, so we're going to do a slightly more complicated problem in example 2. This is to find all solutions to the equation 2 cosine of x plus root 3 is equal to 0. So now we have, again, an equation with a trig function in it. What do we want to do here? Well, we want to make it look like the previous problem, right? In the previous problem, we had sine of x is equal to 1/2. So we found all x values that made sine of that equal to 1/2. So we want to do the similar thing over here and just put it into that form. So we are going to subtract 3 on both sides, or subtract the square root of 3 on both sides. So if we subtract root 3 on both sides, we'll get rid of it on the left, and it becomes a negative root 3 on the right. Then we can divide by 2 here. So if we divide by 2, this becomes cosine of x is equal to negative root 3 over 2. And then we do the same thing as the previous problem. We draw our unit circle. Where is cosine equal to negative root 3 over 2? So cosine is our x value here. Different x than this, sorry. Perhaps I should have used theta here. But cosine is our horizontal value. Where is that negative root 3 over 2? That's negative root 3 over 2 when the angle is 5 pi over 6, and it is negative root 3 over 2 when the angle is 7 pi over 6. So our solutions are x is equal to 5 pi over 6 plus 2 pi n, because again, we can add any integer multiple of 2 pi to get back to this same spot. And we also have x is equal to 7 pi over 6 plus 2 pi n, where n is an integer. And so our solution is here. I've got one more example that I want to do in this video. And this is to find the solutions on the interval 0 to 2 pi for cosine of 2x is equal to root 2 over 2. All right. So, what do we have here? Well, let's take a look at this similar expression. Let's solve cosine of theta equal to root 2 over 2, right? Cosine of 2x equal to root 2 over 2 is a little bit more difficult. But what if we did cosine of theta is equal to root 2 over 2? Well, now, here's what we do. Again, we look at our unit circle. When is cosine root 2 over 2? Well, this occurs at pi over 4. And it occurs at, let's see, 1 pi over 4, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, at 7 pi over 4. So those are the two places that theta, cosine of theta is equal to root 2 over 2. So what we get is we get theta 1 is equal to pi over 4. And theta sub 2 is equal to 7 pi over 4. Now notice I didn't do the plus 2 pi n anywhere here because our question asks us to find the solutions on the interval 0 to 2 pi. So in that sense, it was a little bit simpler. Also, we're not quite done yet. These aren't the solutions. These are theta. We want to know what x is. So what do? Well, what is theta? Theta is 2x. So 2x is equal to pi over 4. We also get the equation 2x is equal to 7 pi over 4. So this one here implies that x is equal to, we divide 2 on both sides, pi over 8. And on this one, we divide 2 on both sides, and we get x is equal to 7 pi over 8. And those are our two solutions. And that is it for this first video.